At 2:30 in the morning on October 9, 2024, 555 illuminated drones formed the words Tropicana Las Vegas over the southern end of the strip. Moments later, a massive fireworks display erupted across the skyline, followed by the detonation of more than 2,000 pounds of explosives. In 22 seconds, 67 years of Las Vegas history collapsed into a massive cloud of concrete dust. Tourists cheered. Guests in high-rise suites raised champagne glasses. If you go to Rome, they preserve the Colosseum. If you go to Paris, they guard Notre Dame. But if you come to Las Vegas, the city will charge you $500 for a balcony view to watch its own architectural heritage get blown to pieces. The Las Vegas Strip is not just a collection of luxury megaresorts. It is a multi-billion-dollar graveyard. Beneath the fountains of the Bellagio, beneath the gondolas of the Venetian, beneath the towering glass curve of the Wynn, and beneath the parking lots of the convention center lies the buried rubble of the most famous casinos ever built. This is the story of how Las Vegas erased its own past, the billion-dollar gambles that turned mid-century palaces into dust, and the catastrophic demolition disasters that left empty dirt craters where legends used to stand. To understand why Las Vegas destroys its own history, you have to go back to October 27, 1993. Before that night, when an old casino reached the end of its life, developers quietly dismantled it with bulldozers over several months. But a casino visionary named Steve Wynn had a very different idea. Wynn had purchased the historic Dunes Hotel for $75 million. Opened in 1955, the Dunes was once a crown jewel of the mid-century strip, famous for its towering neon sign and lavish shows. But by the early 1990s, it was financially exhausted and outdated. Wynn did not just want to tear down the Dunes. He wanted to use its destruction to announce a brand new era. Across the street, Wynn was opening Treasure Island. He staged an elaborate media stunt where a pirate ship in front of Treasure Island fired a theatrical cannon shot directly toward the dunes. The moment the cannon fired, pyrotechnics exploded, and the 24-story north tower of the dunes dropped straight into the ground. 200,000 people gathered along the boulevard to watch. Millions more watched on live national television. In a single night, Steve Wynn turned commercial demolition into primetime entertainment. He proved a brutal economic truth: the land underneath a historic strip casino was worth vastly more than the building sitting on top of it. 5 years later, Wynn opened the $1.6 billion Bellagio on the exact footprint where the dunes once stood. The message was clear to every developer: if you wanted to survive on the modern Las Vegas Strip, your historic property had to die. 3 years after the dunes fell, the wrecking balls came for the cultural capital of mid-century America, the Sands Hotel. Opened in 1952, the Sands was the undisputed epicenter of cool. It was where Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Sammy Davis Jr. held court as the Rat Pack, where the original Ocean's 11 was filmed, and where Sinatra recorded his iconic live album in the Copa Room. For 44 years, the Sands defined Las Vegas to the world. By 1996, it was owned by Sheldon Adelson. Adelson did not care about Rat Pack nostalgia. He was looking at basic math. The Sands had roughly 700 rooms spread across low-rise garden wings. The land underneath it was 35 acres of prime strip real estate. In Adelson's eyes, a 700-room motel could never generate the revenue required to justify the land value. On November 26, 1996, the Sands was imploded. In its place, Adelson spent $1.5 billion building the Venetian, a massive Italian-themed complex with thousands of luxury suites, an indoor canal, and a colossal convention expo center. The same fate rapidly swallowed the rest of the historic properties. On New Year's Eve in 1996, the Hacienda was imploded on live television to make way for Mandalay Bay. In 2001, the Desert Inn, where Howard Hughes once rented the entire top 2 floors and bought the whole hotel when they asked him to leave, was imploded by Steve Wynn to build the bronze towers of Wynn Las Vegas and Encore. Piece by piece, the entire mid-century strip was wiped clean. But as the implosion craze accelerated, the stakes grew dangerously high. By the mid-2000s, real estate prices on the Las Vegas Strip were soaring to astronomical heights. Wall Street funds and international developers poured billions of dollars into the city, convinced that any property could be demolished and replaced with an even larger mega-resort. That hubris led directly to the 2 most catastrophic demolitions in Las Vegas history. The first was the Stardust. Opened in 1958, the Stardust was once the largest hotel in the world, with over 1,000 rooms and an iconic cosmic neon facade that defined the northern strip skyline. During the 1970s, it was the financial engine of the Chicago outfit operated by Frank "Lefty" Rosenthal, whose skimming operations became the real-life inspiration for Martin Scorsese's masterpiece film Casino. In 2006, Boyd Gaming decided the historic property had to go. They planned to replace it with Echelon Place, a massive $4.8 billion mega development. On March 13, 2007, the Stardust was imploded in front of a cheering crowd during a spectacular fireworks display. Then disaster struck. Just 1 year after the Stardust collapsed into dust, The 2008 global financial crisis hit Las Vegas like an earthquake. Credit markets froze overnight. In August 2008, Boyd Gaming halted construction on Echelon Place. For nearly a decade, the site where the Stardust once stood became a desolate graveyard of rusted steel girders and unfinished concrete skeletons. It sat completely abandoned on the Strip until the Genting Group finally acquired the parcel years later to build Resorts World. Here is where the story turns from ambitious development into total financial tragedy. Because while the Stardust became a skeleton, an even bigger disaster was unfolding right across the street at the New Frontier. The New Frontier was the second resort ever built on the Las Vegas Strip, opening its doors all the way back in 1942. It was the venue where a young singer named Elvis Presley made his Las Vegas debut in 1956, and where Diana Ross and the Supremes performed their historic final concert together in 1970. In early 2007, at the absolute peak of the real estate bubble, billionaire Phil Ruffin sold the 34.5-acre New Frontier property to the El-Ad Group for a staggering $1.2 billion. It was the most expensive land transaction in the history of the Las Vegas Strip, coming out to more than $34 million per single acre. The buyers announced plans for a $5 billion luxury resort modeled after the historic Plaza Hotel in New York. On November 13, 2007, the New Frontier was blasted into rubble, and then nothing happened. When the economy collapsed in 2008, the $5 billion Plaza project disintegrated instantly. The financing vanished, the developers walked away, and that 34-acre parcel which had hosted Elvis Presley and 65 years of entertainment history became an empty, fenced-off dirt crater in the middle of the most famous street in the world. For over 17 years, that multi-billion-dollar dirt lot sat completely vacant, a stark and dusty reminder of what happens when corporate speculation destroys history before building the future. The demolition craze did not stop there. In 2016, the legendary Riviera Hotel and Casino, which opened in 1955 as the first high-rise on the Strip and hosted everyone from Liberis to the cast of The Hangover, was purchased by the Convention Authority for $182 million. It was imploded in two phases, not to build a new resort, but to pave over the land for convention exhibits and parking lots. And in late 2024, the Tropicana, the final surviving Rat Pack-era resort on the South Strip, met the exact same fate, leveled in seconds to make way for a $1.5 billion Major League Baseball stadium. The same 555 drones that had spelled out its name in lights an hour before were still in the air when the dust finally settled. When you walk down the Las Vegas Strip today, you are walking on the remains of a dozen forgotten worlds. Every fountain, every glass tower, and every parking garage stands on top of a landmark that someone once thought would last forever. Las Vegas is a city built on an unforgiving economic law. The moment a building becomes more valuable as a memory than as a machine for extracting revenue. The wrecking ball is already swinging. Other cities preserve their monuments so future generations can look back. Las Vegas implodes its monuments so it can sell you something new tomorrow. If you want to understand the real stories behind this city that the megaresorts never advertise, subscribe to Vegas Uncovered. And if you want to see how one family built a $2 billion casino empire away from the Strip while everything else was collapsing, our full breakdown of station casinos is on the screen right now. The Strip tells one story, we tell the rest.